I want you to change the world, and don't think that this is going to happen peacefully or you can do it alone. We need to kill the rich, okay? We need to get out there, use your weapons, and rip Washington apart.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's December 28th, 2020. I'm Eric. I've been watching this YouTube channel for a year and a half now, 2 years maybe. Epic Economist. Among others, Dabu7, and they really stress the food lines. The record-breaking number of people who end up stuck in this long-ass, I call it retard lines, but food line, right? And they give interviews as to just how desperate they are for food. Well, and Dabu7 and the Epic Economist and a whole number of other channels expresses sympathy for some of these. And don't get me wrong, some of these people had it rough before all this started, right? And that's not really the people I'm talking about. Even though we haven't had it all that smooth here, we still managed to prepare. Being poor. Still managed to get a bunch of food together, among other things. So, some of these people, they are driving cars that the lease is some ungodly number a month. Some of them range from, for the cheaper ones, at $400 or $500, all the way up. Some of these people are driving brand new Lexus and Mercedes and Cadillacs and Lincolns and the Navigator, among other nice kinds of cars, Volvos, you name it. Nice big F-350s. You see, when I was younger, I thought my problems was everyone else's fault. And it's a very negative trait to have. And as I got older, I realized that most of the bad shit that's happened to me was a result of my own personal failures, including all the way to this day. And everyone has them. These people who the Epic Economist and the rest are trying to sell pity for put themselves exactly where they're at. They made a series of choices, right? They chose status over stability, meaning instead of leasing that $1,000 a month car, they could have just bought a nice used Caddy or whatever outright, and they wouldn't have that additional expense. And these people are considered to be the smartest American dream achieving people, but they're not. They're not, because they put too much faith into this system and thought that it can go on forever. Never thought in a million years that the government would force them out of a job. But I saw this happen with the NAFTA agreement. I watched the government sign away people's good jobs. I watched the after effect of that agreement being signed. I lived in Flint, Michigan at the time, and it went from a pretty it was always fairly dangerous, but the cost of living was low, and a lot of the jobs paid well. So you have a low cost of low overhead and a lot of money left over. And of course, since then it's come out that the water system is poisoned by lead. They still haven't done nothing about that. But, let's send hundreds of millions of dollars to some obscure African country. But I digress. My bad. So, these people, they also chose to get themselves into a large house payment for status. That's what it was all about. These nice big fancy houses, and don't get me wrong, I wouldn't mind living in one of them places. But personally, I would rather have a cabin on a decent plot of land with a good chunk cleared out for agriculture. I'd rather have that than the big fancy house. But nonetheless, my position here doesn't come from envy, because I don't envy anyone with those kinds of problems. So, they chose to get the car. They chose to have the high house payment. And now they're finding themselves making the choice between keeping that car, keeping that house, or eating, right? But while they are doing well, they should have been doing what my poor ass has been doing over the course of a decade, is throwing shit back. Throwing some rice back. Throwing back shit that you'll actually want to eat. Now, I'm not like the rest of the YouTube channels out there. I'm not here to sell you anything. I don't have a affiliate link for you to click below the video, because I think once you start advertising for products, you're for sale. And I'm not for sale. Not for sale. So, I don't do that. All I'm saying is, if you can put some food back, you should probably be doing that. And you should have probably been doing that forever. So, I'm sorry, I don't pity these people. I don't. Because they made their choices. And when some of these people end up showing up at my door, because they're entitled, not just the rich, snooty people, but anybody that's been given a free ride and expect to continue, they'll show up at your door. They'll see that you have something that they desire but can't not get. And then you're going to have to handle a whole nother level of problems. All because they made the choices they made. And you made the choices you made. They chose to ignore the obvious societal collapse going on around them and pretend as if everything was going to continue as normal. And some of us chose not to ignore it and began to prepare. They will get on the fucking mainstream media and call us hoarders. Hoarders. Because we had forethought and decided that maybe having this extra little bit of food is a little more important than that status symbol, the iPhone, or whatever it happens to be. When these media personalities begin losing their jobs, and they will, don't feel sorry for any of them. They made their choices. They chose to ignore the beast right in front of them, and they're going to get gobbled up by it now. That's on them, not on you. Anyway, I bring this up because this article right here, it is on, I think, Zero Hedge. Oh, no, shithitfanplane.com. It's "'Tis the season for bankruptcy, store closings, and tent cities." Now, if anyone is a victim out there regarding the loss of their livelihood and their lives, it is the small business owners. It's the people who work for those small business owners. Now, I'm not going to lie, I'm not completely prepared. There is one thing I am lacking, and that's my own piece of property. And don't get me wrong, the people we rent from, the rental agency, we had this giant fucking pine tree. It was dying, and with every storm, it sway a little more, and I became very alarmed about it because it would have crushed. It would have done some damage and maybe have killed somebody. It was that big of a tree. They got right on it. They didn't bullshit. They didn't argue with me. And if there's anybody to rent from, it's people like that. I have not had the opportunity to buy a piece of land, and if I ever do, believe me, I will jump on it. But that's one way I'm not prepared. If we lost our whole income, yes, I got some gold and silver, but converting it into currency, that's a whole different matter. So, yeah. But if that happens, I got a couple places to go. Alright, so Michael Schneider says that we need to make 2021 a year of hope. But here's the thing with hope, okay? The longer people hope, the longer reality is delayed. Clinging to hope is really a bad thing. Really a bad thing. And it's the wrong thing to do. I do not share the hope and optimism for the future of this country that a lot of other people still believe will become a reality. And there's a sign that this is going to be the reality, and that is we have an African country reaching out to American citizens and saying, hey, we're willing to take you in. If an African country is telling American citizens, hey, we're willing to take you in, set you up, get you started, because of the violence and economic uncertainty there in the United States, we'll give you refugee status. If a fucking African country is doing this, you should really pay attention to that sign. That is a very, very ominous sign, considering for the last, 7,500 years, we've been the ones to supply foreign aid, and still are, to the poor countries out there, food and whatnot. Now one of those countries is reaching out and saying, hey, you want to get the fuck out of there, we'll take you in. We'll grant you refugee status. Pretty bad. Pretty bad. He goes on to say that more than 100,000 businesses have been permanently closed since the pandemic began. He calls it a pandemic, but, when legislation for this pandemic is written a full year before anyone even heard of this so-called disease, it's a pandemic. And then, of course, you have the patent in 2015 for the COVID test. I'm pretty sure that some of this was pre-planned. Pretty sure. But I'm a conspiracy theorist. So, more than 100,000 businesses have permanently closed down since all this fuckery began. Many of the most iconic chains have filed for bankruptcy over the past 12 months. Tent cities are popping up in major cities across the country. And a lot of people would like to believe that the conservative areas, the areas ran by conservatives, is any different. We have our tent cities here. Big ones. So, the suicide rate in the U.S. was already at all-time high records. And a Gallup survey recently discovered that the mental health of Americans is at an all-time low. And that's because we've been intentionally made weak, vulnerable people. Intentionally. He goes on to say that if a way is not found to give people hope, again, there's that word, multitudes of Americans will decide that life is no longer worth living, just like Anthony Quinn Warner did. And if you're wondering, who the fuck is that? Or probably you already know, but he's the dude that supposedly, because after all, can you really trust anything that comes out of the mouths of government officials and media pundits? I don't think so. I don't think you can. You know what I think? I think that AT&T building was deliberately attacked because it was housing some kind of information on God knows who within the servers inside. Could I be wrong? Of course. Of course I could be wrong. It just doesn't seem like... I don't know. Something about it just doesn't sit right. You know what I'm saying? First there was no bodies found. And then all of a sudden, just like that, they find the body of Anthony Quinn Warner. How convenient. How convenient. Okay, so in the year 2020, many retail stores closed their doors at a pace that has not been seen before. But, you know, let's continue to fill people with false hope. The sooner individuals deal with the reality before them, the reality that you have a tyrannical government, you have what is equivalent to the Gestapo running around in these squad cars in their blue uniforms and gold-plated badges. That's the reality. The reality is they are taking everything from you. And they will continue to take everything from you. Everything. Including your right to choose what goes in your body. Which, in the minds of tyrants, isn't a right. It is a privilege. You understand that, right? Alright, so there's that one. I thought it'd be worth mentioning this fellow here. And speaking of the right to choose, the propaganda is nonstop for the beast system. No travel without the vaccine. Well, here's the deal. Okay? If more people refuse to get the vaccine, that just means that they put the nails in their own coffins by refusing to serve those people. I say good fucking riddance. Who needs authoritarians owning anything? Or at least anything important. You know, such as air travel systems. But mainstream media is ramping up the propaganda in order to get the public on board with an unnecessary and unwanted vaccine. They're doing things like threatening vaccine passports and saying that there's new scary mutant COVID strains. Ooh. And, of course, we can't forget about, Joe Biden with his threat. And that's what these are. Assaults and threats of a darkest days ahead. Or the darkest winter ahead. You know, as far as I can see, the only thing making winter dark is the fact that the sun goes down around 5:30, 6 o'clock in the evening. Bring it on, motherfuckers. Bring it on. Again, I'm not for sale. My soul is not for sale. and nor are any of my family members for sale. But there's been problems with this vaccine. Major COVID vaccine glitches emerges. Most Europeans, including hospital staff, refuse to take it. Good for them. And that's what I'm talking about. More people refuse to take it. They can't do shit about it. Nothing. You see, when we stand together on some things, there's nothing the government can do to you. Nothing. Except for take the loss because they pumped a bunch of fucking money into it. I wonder why Donald Trump went from being, somewhat against vaccines to pushing this shit like a crack dealer on a street corner. I wonder why. Could it be he has money invested in these companies along with Bill Gates? Could it be? Probably. But it's not all going according to plan in the biggest global rollout of what is arguably the most important vaccine in a century. The only thing making it important is the media hype. That's it. No, look, how can it be seen as important if Europeans, or most Europeans, including hospital staff, refuse to take it? How can it be important? Because I'm sure they thought not taking it. It's been a long time since I've gotten sick. I'm not taking anything except for what I currently, vitamin C, stuff like that. And, there is an unexpected spike in allergic reactions to the Pfizer BioNTech vaccine. And now Moderna too. So, there's not going to be widespread acceptance of this vaccine. I thought we didn't have a choice, Bill Gates. I thought we didn't have a choice. But we have choices. We all make them. Just like the motherfuckers with the big-ass fancy houses, the large payment that goes with them, and their nice-ass fancy cars, and the payment goes with them. Not to mention the insurance. Not getting your poison. I don't need your help killing myself. I'm doing that just fine, all on my own. Now, you gotta wonder what the outcome to this is going to be. World's first COVID human challenge begins as UK prepares to infect 2,500 volunteers. It sounds an awful lot like the beginning of a zombie apocalypse movie, doesn't it? Sounds an awful lot like that. But 2,500 healthy Britons are about to participate in the world's first COVID-19 human challenge, letting the government infect them with SARS-CoV-2 in order to see how the virus reacts to an experimental vaccine. Sounds like the beginning of a a bad scenario to me. Could be wrong, but that's what it sounds like. And so they're getting paid $5,350 or 4,000 euros. And they have to stay 2 or 3 weeks in the Royal Free Hospital. And they're going to get the vaccine, and then they're going to be exposed to COVID, and see what happens. Good luck, man. Good luck. Who knows? Maybe some of these people will end up rising from the dead and wanting to eat brains. Anyway, thought I would talk to you about this shit today. Hope everybody's having a very pleasant Monday. And till next time, kill the state, live free.